All right, well, it's a review for Cujo by Stephen King. Um, what is there to say about this book? Dog gets rabies and starts to kill people. That's pretty much it. Now, there is a group of characters in this book. Pretty much the main characters are Donna, her husband, Vic, and their son Tad. So it's a married couple, and Donna's having an affair, and Vic doesn't know about it. The um, Donna's affair is with a character named Steve Kemp, and yes, he is a Stephen King self-insert. Steve Kemp is a writer, and he's described looking very similar to what Stephen King looks like here. And yeah, Stephen Kemp is a pretty despicable character in the book, but that's kind of a subplot. So we have this family drama of a husband and wife that are having marital problems because of a wife's infidelity. Um, this book is set in Castle Rock, the same town where the Dead Zone took place. In fact, we have several characters from the Dead Zone that show up in this book. One of them is Sheriff George Bannerman, who was played by Tom Skerritt in the movie adaptation of The Dead Zone. So we have him in the book, and I wasn't really happy what happened to Sheriff Bannerman's character. This is one of those cases where I think this book has a crap ending, and I'm really getting tired of it. But I'm a glutton for punishment. I continue to read these Stephen King books, and I don't know why. I don't really find them. I don't think Stephen King is worth my time. That's what I'm saying. This book is a total pass. I'm gonna go pick up the movie adaptation of this because, frankly, I don't think this book is worth it. It meanders a lot. One of the things that happens in this book is a subplot with Vic. Okay, Vic and Donna. Vic's character works in advertising, and there's this whole thing about Red Raspberry Zingers, which is a cereal, and this whole cereal crisis that he has, where he and his buddy are brainstorming, how to save the I think it's called the Sharp Cereal Company, whatever, from a public fiasco. And this stuff just goes on, and I just don't care about it. Like these meandering plots that just, who cares? Who really cares? I don't care about what the Tonight Show or Saturday Night Live and George Carlin and all this stuff has to say about the Raspberry Zingers. I could really care less. There's one weird thing in this book which I can't quite figure out. So there is, if you're gonna read this book, you better read the Dead Zone first, because this book has spoilers for the Dead Zone. So I'm gonna give a major spoiler, but I'll give my ranking for this book first. This is like a 3 out of 5, right down the middle. I hated the ending of this. Okay, it is what it is. It's a Stephen King book. It's another Stephen King book. So if you don't want to hear the spoiler, go ahead and end the review there. All right. All right. Here's the spoiler. Slight spoiler. There is so from the Dead Zone. So this is a spoiler for the Dead Zone as it ties to this novel. Frank Dodd. Of course, we all know he was the Castle Rock Killer, and the Dead Zone, which, by the way, the Dead Zone is probably it may be my favorite Stephen King book. It's either that or Salem's Lot. Those are the only 2 Stephen King books that I would recommend reading, that are the best Stephen King novels. But Frank Dodd, he was the Castle Rock killer. Of course, he died in the dead zone. He committed suicide. But I guess his ghost, it's not entirely clear if his spirit is haunting Tad's closet. All right, so Tad, Donna and Vic's son, there's some sort of apparition or spook, and it seems to be the spirit of Frank Dodd. And I don't quite know, but it seems like maybe Frank Dodd's spirit has possessed Cujo. It's never really actually answered. It's kind of implied that Frank Dodd's spectral, his spook has possessed the rabid dog. And that that Cujo's possessed by the Castle Rock killer. I don't know. That was a weird thing in here, but it's never actually explicitly said that that's the case. All right, that concludes this review, and I've made up my mind at this point that this Stephen King series is going to come to an end. I'm not going to read anything past the 80s. I'm probably going to read just what he wrote through the 1980s and then call it quits, because I just, this exploration, like, why, you ask, if you're reading Stephen King, why are you reading Stephen King if you don't like him? The reason why I'm reading him is because he's like a cultural phenomenon. He's like a pop culture dude. Okay, and that everybody has like a touch of like a point, whether they've seen his movies, whether they read his books. I'm trying to have a point of reference, or something that I can discuss with people or understand where people are coming from, because I know there's people in my town where I live that just love Stephen King. So I'm trying to figure out like what it is, and I guess I'm kind of seeing like the nostalgia factor is probably playing really heavy on this, is that they read these when they were younger. And so reading these books like kind of takes them back to when they were kids or when they were teenagers. I think that's really it. So I don't know. What do you think? Why are people obsessed with Stephen King? Because I don't think he's that great. I don't think he's really that great. He's okay. His stories, you have it in here. How many times did people pee their pants in this book? It was a lot. That's a trope that I'm really getting sick of. The Stephen King self-inserts, he puts himself as a character in almost every book that he writes. All right, anyways, that's it. Have a wonderful day.